The source of oppression of women in the Western world originated from males' intrinsic need to be dominant and continued for thousands of years because of females' unfortunate ability to conform to forced gender roles.
In early history, women were not given much power politically or economically, but as time went on, women have gained much more power. Females in the present day hold high positions in government and business.
Strong females fought fiercely and courageously against male dominance and for their rights.
Women and their allies have come very far in the fight against gender oppression, but they still have a long way to go until men and women are completely equal.
Women in the hunter-gatherer period would commonly stay near the home and gather nuts and berries and take care of the children. During this time, men would go out and hunt and have the opportunity that women did not have to experience the world.
Women were forced into these roles because men are naturally built stronger. They led to the natural division of labor in which men were seen as dominant.
This began the thousands of years of oppression that women had to suffer through.
In early European hunter-gatherer societies, women were expected to tend to the home, while men would leave the home to hunt. The work men did was glorified, while women received little recognition for their work, as represented in the cave paintings at Lascaux in France.
In most ancient Greek societies, women tended to children and the home. However, there are a few exceptions to this rule.
Sappho, a female poet in ancient Greece, broke gender barriers by writing of her love for both men and women.
In her poem Anactoria, Sappho describes the love between two women, Athos and Anactoria. Sappho declares that Athos
shouts aloud, "Come, we know it! Thousand-eared knights repeat that cry across the sea shining between us."
As Sappho describes the sea between Anactoria and Athos, she displays the barriers that exist between love that is not necessarily traditional. As Sappho broke through gender barriers, so did the women in Sparta.
In Sparta, women and men were nearly equal. Women received education, were athletes, and had economic power, and they were not forced into marriages.
Most women in ancient Rome were considered less than men and were not respected by society. However, some women like Octavia Manor were well respected by both men and women, only because they adhered to their gender roles by being good wives to their husbands and good mothers to their children.
A very well-known poet in ancient Rome was Sulpicia. She expressed the need to write with a male tradition because her work wouldn't have been accepted, but at the same time in her writings she sexualized stereotypes of the muse or mistress of the post.
In one of Sulpicia's verses, in Sickness, she converses with a man she used to be romantic with and questions whether he had any kind of thought for your girl. It leaves one wondering if he was dominating her in the relationship. As time went on, women continued to be dominated by their husbands.
During the Middle Ages, the commonality for most women was to be married and have children at a very young age. They would either tend to the home, where they would work on the farm, clean, cook, and also tend and take care of the children.
Women often endured much unhappiness in their marriages, as represented in The Wife's Lament. A woman describes how she must far and near bear the anger of my beloved.
While most women during this era were forced into marriages, others chose an alternative lifestyle by joining convents. They pursued a life dedicated to religion, rather than adhering to the gender norm by simply marrying a man and taking care of his home and children.
During the Middle Ages, most queens, like Matilda of Flanders, became well known. Not because of their intelligence or contributions to society, but because of who they married and who their male children were.
While most females were not respected during the medieval era, there were women who received somewhat rare treatment. One of the distinctive women was the last monarch of Tudor, Queen Elizabeth I.
She was respected by both men and women for the prowess and strength she displayed as a leader that was not expected from women during this time. Her boldness as a leader is represented in a speech to her soldiers before a battle with the Spanish Armada, in which she declares, "I know I have but the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart of a king." While Elizabeth was a strong leader, other women were strong feminists.
While most women in the medieval ages would not stand up for themselves or their rights, there were a few brave women that did. One of these brave women was Christine de Pizan.
She forced people to recognize how society blatantly ignores all the contributions that females make to society in her most famous book, The Book of the City of Ladies.
Pizan explains why men and women should be equal, describing how the man or woman in whom resides greater virtue is the higher. Neither the loftiness nor the loneliness of a person lies in the body according to the sex, but the perfection of conduct and virtues.
The Renaissance was a period of great change in Europe, but not necessarily for the structure of gender roles.
During the Renaissance, individuality was celebrated throughout Europe, but most of the individuality of men, not women.
Most males still saw females as weak, so women were forced to adhere to their previous gender roles.
The Renaissance period slightly altered the role of the wife.
Women were not only important because they took care of the children of the home, but they were now supposed to support their husbands' ambitions to pursue art and individuality.
During the Enlightenment, gender roles were altered. More women were given the opportunity to voice their opinions and ideas.
Elite women would do this in salons, where they would discuss their thoughts and beliefs with other women, and sometimes even men.
During the Enlightenment, more middle and upper-class females began to receive at least some basic schooling. Mary Wollstonecraft was a philosopher, writer, and feminist in the 1800s. She is best known for the book A Vindication of the Rights of Women,
In which she describes the rights she believes all women deserve.
With this increase in education, more women had the ability to voice their opinions and ideas about the proper treatment of women and the rights they deserve.
One of these early feminists was Olympe de Gouges, who responded to sexist philosophies in her best-known work, The Declaration of the Rights of Woman and the Female Citizen.
Women in the Industrial Revolution were put to work in factories.
This was when women first started to make their own money.
When women were let into the workforce, there was a need for more jobs. The women were very helpful in the factories and working with new machinery.
On the day of July 18th and 19th, 1848, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott introduced the first women's rights convention in the history of the United States.
More than 300 women and even men came to New York to protest the bad treatment of women in every way of life. The convention created a document called the Declaration of the Sentiments and Resolutions.
It stated the issues that men had brought onto women. It requested that women were to be granted all of the same rights that men had, including but not limited to the right to vote.
In 1872, Victoria Woodhull was the first woman to run for president. Women at that time didn't even have the right to vote.
Although she didn't win, she paved a path for many women to come. Charlotte Cooper was the first woman to ever win an Olympic gold medal. Cooper won the women's tennis singles in Paris in the 1900s game.
While there was progress being made towards gender equality, gender oppression was still a commonality. Pablo Picasso's 1907 oil painting entitled
Les Demoiselles d'Avignon.
5 female prostitutes are shown on a street corner in Barcelona. The gender discrimination that women suffered through is present.
During World War I and II, while men were fighting in the war, women had to fill in positions in both factories and businesses where men were originally employed.
In some of the Western world's most recent wars, women were not given the opportunity to fight in the army.
As women have broken away from gender roles, they have gained the opportunity to join the military, a profession that in the past was selective only to men.
Some women have become trailblazers and have inspired others to follow their own dreams. Hillary Clinton undertook many political roles, including First Lady and Secretary of State, and she still remained poised and herself.
Originally, the world of rap and hip-hop was limited to men only, but in recent years, artists like Lil' Kim and Nicki Minaj have broken these previous musical boundaries.
Both of these women are 2 of America's first female rappers, breaking into an industry that women have never been in before.
While many women are making headway in politics, others are doing the same in business.
Ursula Burns, for example, is one of Fortune 500's 21 female CEOs. She's the head of Xerox, and she is also the first woman to ever succeed another woman as a CEO.
Clearly, women have broken through the gender roles that were created in some of the world's earliest societies.
As time has gone on, females have slowly begun to rebel against gender roles that were forced upon them by men.
Throughout history, feminists have been strengthening their fight against unfair gender roles and their lack of rights.
Recently, females have gained most of the rights they deserve, but they are still not entirely equal to men.
Hopefully, as time goes on, females will become more equal to men.